A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you an RPG review. I'm continuing with my theme of horror because this is October, of course. So everything I review is going to be horror based, be it books, role-playing games, playing board games, whatever. Now, it's not going to come as any surprise that I absolutely love the works of H.P. Lovecraft. Ever since high school, I stumbled across a book of Lovecraft short stories in the local library and instantly just kind of fell in love with the writing style and whatever. And I've been playing Call of Cthulhu, the role-playing game. Oh, pardon me, a little bit burpy here today. For, I think our ongoing campaign at the moment has been going for over a year and a half with Max Schreck, the German occultist, and Mort Shackleton, the Boston detective, although in the game itself he's kind of pissed off his superiors enough that I don't think he's actually a detective anymore. So I just wanted to go through just a few of the Call of Cthulhu books that I have and how they have kind of influenced me in the game, and also just to show my players that I fucking take this shit seriously. They know I do, but this is still fun. So this is the 7th edition Keeper's Rulebook. I also have the 6th edition one out there somewhere. This is just an absolutely fantastic book with great art, quick reference tables, all the rules that you need to fucking play. Now, if you're someone that doesn't that wants to role play but doesn't really kind of know anyone or know how to get into it, 7th edition actually does have some solo games or solo kind of adventures that you can do. They have Alone Against the Frost. This is really cool. I've actually played through this a few times, died every single time, but it's always been absolutely fantastic. They have Alone Against the Dark. I've never actually I haven't played this one yet, just because there's like this really weird timekeeping system that seems a little awkward. I just have to get used to it, but you have that. There is Alone Against the Tide. This one is really, really cool. I've played this numerous times, different ending every time. Really, really enjoyed it. And Alone Against the Flames. Now, if you're a first-time Call of Cthulhu player, this is the one that I would recommend. Get the rulebook, get Alone Against the Flames, learn how to play. This builds your character as you go, and this is really fucking creepy. I will admit that. The first time I played through it, it was just my ending, like the ending that my character had, was just really disturbing. I walked away from this and thought, yeah, I'm not doing that again. But yeah, I did it again and got an equally disturbing ending. It's a really cool. Think of it like Fighting Fantasy or Choose Your Own Adventure, but they walk you through the rules of the Call of Cthulhu game, which I think is really, really awesome. Okay, so that's the solo stuff. Just going to put that on the floor as I get into the other 7th edition products that I have. Okay, Call of Cthulhu, The Children of Fear. This is A reprint, this is an actual campaign. So your characters or your players will kind of go through this thing. A 1920s campaign across Asia. Now this is really cool. There are some fantastic ideas in here. And I really like the premise itself. As you can see, it's set out like most 7th edition books are, with each chapter being kind of another, another adventure or another part of the campaign. This is a reprint of an older campaign. Chaosium did a fantastic job with this. Whether or not I introduce the campaign itself to my players, I'm debating, but some of the ideas that are in it are really, really cool. Okay, let's move on to Gateways to Terror, 3 Evenings of Nightmare. This is a source book that basically is there to introduce players and new keepers. There are 3 adventures in here: the Necropolis, What's in the Cellar, the Dead Border. It comes with very detailed maps and how to run and prepare the game. So this is if you're new to the game, this is what you want. This will help a new keeper and new players get acclimated to the rules themselves. Very good product. Okay, the Malleus Monstrorum. This thing is fucking awesome. This is 2 books. Let me just take out one of those 2 books. Cthulhu Mythos Bestiary. This is the Deities of the Mythos, and the other one is the Monsters of the Mythos. Comes with stats, a few pictures, information on everything that you could ever possibly need when it comes to your players, what they're fighting, and what they are up against. The Deities one is especially cool because it goes through a lot of the typical deities and then some that you might not have heard of that come from other authors, because H.P. Lovecraft let a lot of writers play around in the Cthulhu playground. Whoops. This is a 2-book set that comes in this nice kind of hardcover slipcase. Very cool. Okay, next up, we're going on to Mansions of Madness, Volume 1, Behind Closed Doors. This is actually a reprint, but it's a reprint done right because it reprints some of the old stuff and then adds some new things as well. Now, something that you have to understand with Call of Cthulhu, the system is backwards compatible. So if you have a lot of old stuff, you can still use it with 7th edition Call of Cthulhu. It's very, very simple to add that in. So we have Mr. Corbett. Now, one of my players actually did the Mr. Corbett scenario solo because the other player couldn't actually make it that day. And there was this really intense scene where they opened the door and Mr. Corbett was standing there with a shotgun pointed at him. And I actually rolled a 100 for his firearms attack, which is a critical failure. It was one of the funniest and most intense parts of the game I've ever experienced. So Mr. Corbett is a reprint. The Cracked and Crooked Manse is a reprint. And then we have The Code, The House of Memphis, and The 19th Hole are new scenarios. And of course, you see the typical 7th edition stuff. Some great maps. Really, really great book of adventures there for Dungeon Masters. All right, let's move on to the Grand Grimoire of Cthulhu Mythos Magic. This is all your spells and magical items. That's all this is. This book is phenomenal. It really does a fantastic job of linking all the spells together in kind of how they work. If your campaign is very magic oriented, this is a must. And like what types of spells, what style of spell, it's just a really, really well put together tome that gathers all of the magic from all different kind of source books and puts it together in one. That is the Grand Grimoire of Cthulhu Mythos Magic. Okay. Deadlight and Other Dark Turns. I used the Deadlight scenario in my campaign. My players actually played through it. It was a lot of fun. It led to the death of a prominent H.P. Lovecraft character, which was in and of itself hilarious. But this is really two scenarios and some story seeds, but both of these scenarios are really cool. They really do a good job of providing like an atmosphere of dread and tension that every good Call of Cthulhu game needs. This is really, really cool. You can fit these adventures in to your existing campaign as well, which is what I like about it. That they are not like, I mean, you can play them as one-offs. Everything you can play as one-offs, but they are so easy to slide in to an existing campaign. I have The Shadow over Providence. This was a game that was run at a Call of Cthulhu convention, and they released it as a 7th edition scenario. It's a pretty cool scenario. All of it kind of revolves around this one hotel the players are staying at. So once again, you can slot it in. There are pre-existing characters that you can use if that is your wish. It's not a long adventure, but it is a very fun one. Okay, one of the latest editions, Cults of Cthulhu, is exactly what the title says. This is just about Cthulhu cults. This book is fantastic. You get information on the different existing Cthulhu cults, how to create a Cthulhu cult. Just a really cool kind of book of lore, if you will, on the people that worship Cthulhu, where they live, why they do it. A lot of fun. It's a really good read, actually, if you are an H.P. Lovecraft fan. Okay. We have A Time to Harvest. This is another campaign. This is a 1930s era campaign where players are in New England. They kind of are part of an archaeological kind of dig site from Miskatonic University in Arkham, and then they uncover some stuff. It goes back to Arkham, and then kind of back and forth. It's a really cool campaign, and one that I kind of want to introduce my characters to, so I'm not going to talk all that much about it. Now, when it comes to 7th edition, we come to the granddaddy of them all, Masks of Nyarlathotep. This was my absolute favorite Call of Cthulhu campaign. There was an older version of it that came out as one book. This one is 2 books and like a keeper's pack. So we have a volume 1, Dark Schemes, Herald the End of the World. We have a volume 2, and then we have the keeper's screen pack, which has all the handouts, everything with a Games Master's screen attached to it. I am going to go into zero detail with this one, just because, depending on where our game heads, I sincerely hope that this is what my players kind of will be doing. But nonetheless, the 7th edition version of this is freaking amazing. The story is fantastic. They've updated it a little bit. And all in all, cannot recommend this enough if you want a fantastic campaign to keep your players engaged. Okay. We're not going to stop there. However, that was 7th edition. I still have a lot of stuff to go through. There are different eras in which you can play Call of Cthulhu. We have Down Darker Trails, Terrors of the Mythos in the Old West. So this is Call of Cthulhu Wild West. How to design the adventures, what sort of monsters they would face, characters that they might meet in the Old West, things like that. Now, one of my favorite World of Darkness settings was Werewolf in the Wild West. This is Cthulhu in the Wild West, and you cannot go wrong with that. But if you're having a hard time coming up with adventures, then go with Shadows over Stillwater. These are a series of linked adventures that you can play as a campaign, which are, in fact, set in the Wild West. So it is kind of, I'm not a huge fan of this. I have to admit, just because of the, the kind of bad guys, I think is a bit redundant at this point. But these are still really, really cool adventures. So that's one thing. If you want to play Call of Cthulhu, hey, you can do it in the Wild West. If, however, you want your games to be more Indiana Jonesy, go with Pulp Cthulhu. Pulp Cthulhu ramps the characters up. They are no longer squishy. They have more action-oriented abilities. They can do more stuff. Think of this as like Cthulhu meets Indiana Jones is the best way to describe it. A fantastic book. It comes with a few adventures at the end of it that you can run with your players, which are really freaking cool. New skills, a whole lot of other stuff, and it just makes your characters basically more survivable. They are going to be able to beat the living snot out of some of the creatures that a typical Call of Cthulhu character wouldn't actually be able to do. So, really cool setting. They did have 2 campaigns for Pulp Cthulhu. One of them is A Cold Fire Within. Now, I'm not really a huge fan of this one, just because it feels a little clunky to me. and I don't think the payoff is all that interesting. There are some fantastic features in here, however. I will say there are some of the adventures that are just incredibly cool, but overall, not one of my favorite Call of Cthulhu campaigns. The Two-Headed Serpent, however, is absolutely fucking awesome. This is one of the best campaigns that I have ever read. I would seriously, if my players wanted to switch to Pulp Cthulhu, I would be running them through this. This is just absolutely amazing. I think they did a fantastic job capturing the Pulp Cthulhu theme from the opening scene. Like, it literally just throws your characters into the middle of the action. There's no build up or anything like that. It's like, bang, you're there. Fucking deal with it. To the end, which is just utter fucking insanity. Absolutely fantastic. The Two-Headed Serpent. Okay. Now, one more. No, I've got a few more 7th edition. Wow, I just didn't realize. Peterson's Abominations. This is 7th edition Call of Cthulhu set in modern times. By the creator of the game. And these are basically one-shots. I mean, if you're running a Call of Cthulhu campaign in modern times, you could fit these in somewhere. But these are pretty good one-shots, actually. Hotel Hell, The Derelict, Panacea, Mohole, and Voice Over the Phone. So it kind of utilizes 7th edition Call of Cthulhu, but, you know, set in modern day. There are some fantastic ideas in here. Some of these are just downright fucking creepy. Really kind of respect the attention to horror that has gone into this series of adventures. But we have that. That is a 7th edition. Just going to put these on the floor. Now we get into 7th edition kind of settings. Call of Cthulhu, Cthulhu Dark Ages. This is if you want to play Call of Cthulhu in medieval times. My players have already experienced that. I will talk about that in a little bit. This comes with a couple of adventures, new skills, great pictures, just a really, really cool setting if you want that kind of medieval feel to your game. This is the book for you. Kind of, they've taken something that was kind of an offshoot from an earlier Call of Cthulhu product and turned it into this setting guide, which I respect, but really cool. Really cool book. Okay. Call of Cthulhu Berlin. The Wicked City, unveiling the mythos in, Weimar, Berlin? This is exactly what it says. It's basically Call of Cthulhu set in Berlin. They give you all the backstories, everything like this. Different crimes, different people, a lot of scenarios in this one. Characters that I've actually used in my campaign because one of my players is from Germany. This is a really, really cool setting. If you want that World War One feel to your Call of Cthulhu campaign, you can have your characters start in Germany. There's a lot of information in here, a lot of history as well. They did their research really, really well with this one. Call of Cthulhu Berlin. And finally, Call of Cthulhu Terra Australis. Okay. As I am Australian, really don't know what to say about this. Yeah, this is Call of Cthulhu in Australia, mate. When I play one of the Arkham Horror games like Eldritch Horror, for example, it's always good to get your players down to Australia, down to Sydney, because there's a chance to get your strength up by fighting bunyips and stuff. I wish I was joking. I'm actually not. This is actually really cool. It's got some cool adventures, some cool ideas. It goes over like the history of Australia, yet kind of the mythos, how it all kind of fits together, especially in like the 1920s. And you will find in the index Blue Mountains, which is where I am from. There you go. And what movies to watch and stuff like that. So this is basically if you want to take your characters down under to fight drop bears and shit, eh, mate? But yeah, that's a pretty cool Call of Cthulhu source book. I actually really, I thought this would be stupid. I think it's really, really cool. Okay. Let's now delve into some of the older stuff. Kind of with the new as well. They reprinted Horror on the Orient Express. This comes in 2 volumes. As you can see here, with a map of Europe, the routes of the Orient Express. I'm not going to kind of open that. And this is exactly what you would think. Now, this is a reprint, so it's using the older rules for Call of Cthulhu, but as I said earlier, they are compatible with the 7th edition. It's very, very easy to put them together. Now, along with Horror on the Orient Express, there is Reign of Terror. So, Reign of Terror can be played as a one-shot, but in Horror on the Orient Express, the players encounter a character, and that character tells a story, and this allows them to play out that story. This is a really cool scenario in revolutionary France, which, you know, the players take control of certain characters, and then when they end this adventure, they are back in the Orient Express adventure. I just thought that was a really neat idea. So that is Horror on the Orient Express, volumes 1 and 2. A reprint. Okay, let's move on to Secrets. These are early Call of Cthulhu books that deal with certain cities. So we have The Secrets of New Orleans. My players are actually here at the moment, actually playing through one of the adventures in this book. It's really, really cool. It gives you the origins of how the city started, who are the major players. It gives you maps to allow you to kind of create mansions and houses and things like that for your own games. These are really, really cool source books. Secrets of New Orleans, Secrets of Morocco, Secrets of New York, Secrets of Los Angeles, and Secrets of San Francisco. Now, all of these books come with 1 or 2 scenarios, but also how the mythos is entwined with the lore of the city itself. So these are really, really cool source books that are, you know, as I said, 7th edition is backwards compatible, so you can easily adapt this stuff to your modern games. All right. The Book of Monsters 2. As you can see, this cost me $21.50. And that's on sale, by the way. Now, this is just a book of monsters for Call of Cthulhu. It gives you a picture and their stats. Nothing like... This is just an extra bestiary, really. I can remember buying this book. This was on what my good buddy Ian Van Gammet and I used to call our walk of shame, where we would take the train down to Sydney, do one walk, hitting every hobby shop, comic book store, things like that, and go and get some drinks, maybe gamble a bit in the RSL club, and then slink our way home on the train in sullen defeat. So this was a walk of shame book, the Book of Monsters Part 2. Cthulhu Through the Ages. This is exactly what it sounds like. This gives you rules to play Call of Cthulhu through Cthulhu Invictus, which is ancient Rome. My players have been there. Cthulhu Dark Ages. My players have been there. Mythic Iceland, Swords and Arrows, Gaslight, Dreamlands, Cthulhu Icarus, Cthulhu End Times. Just a few new rules if you want to change up your game a bit. Maybe set it somewhere different. All in one handy setting. We have the House of Relay. Now, the scenarios in this are directly inspired by stories from H.P. Lovecraft. So, for example, The Art of Madness is basically inspired by Pickman's model, an H.P. Lovecraft short story. And then you get kind of like, you actually get a lot in this book. I mean, there are 5 scenarios, but this is a hefty tome here. These are really cool, especially if you're familiar with H.P. Lovecraft's writing. Really recommend this one. Tatters of the King. This is a Hastur-inspired campaign. If you don't know who Hastur is, The King in Yellow is a play that drives people insane, and this is kind of a campaign that the players have to kind of go and deal with that. Hastur himself and The King in Yellow was not written by H.P. Lovecraft, but by one of his contemporaries that Lovecraft let play in his world. Tatters of the King, a really cool but incredibly difficult campaign to actually run. There are a lot of ideas in here, and it would take a keeper a lot of time to prepare for it. So if you're one of those keepers that just want to get straight into the action, probably not the campaign for you. Mansions of Madness. Now, this is the first version of it. I showed you the 7th edition version. There are 6 adventures in here. Mr. Corbett and the Cracked and Crooked Manse are the 2 that have carried over. But you have the Plantation, the Sanatorium, Mansions of Madness, the Old Damned House. There is one adventure in here that is possibly the most fucked up thing that I have seen in a published product, but it is still freaking awesome. A really, really great book with some great ideas that you can slot into any campaign very, very easily. Ripples from Carcosa. 3 scenarios exploring Hasta, Carcosa, and the King in Yellow. My players played through all 3 of these. The first one is set in ancient Rome. The second one is set in the Middle Ages. And the third one is set in the future. And my players did all of them. To give you a little bit of backstory on how, my players had previously been in Boston, where my player Max Schreck, who was friends with the one of the directors of certain German silent horror films, was contacted, and they basically got their hands on this new film that the director was making, which was inspired by Hasta, the King in Yellow, that when the film was shown, people would be driven kind of crazy. And they ended up kind of stopping that film from being made, which is somewhat historically accurate. The film itself, which I can't remember the title of, was actually made by this director and brought to America to be shown. In the process, they pissed off Hasta, the King in Yellow. Many sessions later, they were going through a safe house, trying to kind of find this gangster that had slighted them, where they came across a daughter of Atlak Natcha, the spider bitch thing, and they were both killed. As they were killed, their minds were ripped from their bodies by Hasta and sent back in time. And Hasta basically made them go through his 3 greatest victories, and they had to stop them. So the first one was in ancient Rome, and then when that played itself out, they were thrown into medieval times, into new bodies. They had to work out what was going on. And then when that was played out, they went into the future. They were on a spaceship, and they had to kind of play that out. And it was so much fucking fun. Ripples from Carcosa, absolutely love this. One of the best King in Yellow, like, mini scenario things that you can get. Really, really had a good time with this one. Shadows of Yog-Sothoth. This is a campaign. Sadly, this was the campaign I wanted my players to actually play through. I dropped hints. I left them crumbs and clues and everything, and yet they just completely fucked it up. So this one has gone to the wayside for the moment, but whatever. That's the beauty part of role-playing, especially role-playing in a sandbox, where my players do whatever they want and I react to them, as opposed to me railroading them into the game. This is a really, really cool campaign. It says a global campaign to save mankind. It's not fucking lying on the title either. Like, this thing has heavy, heavy globe-trotting stakes in this one. Really, really cool. Thoroughly enjoyed this one. All right. Let's go to The Stars Are Right. 9 Disturbing Tales of Mankind's Corruption. This is modern Cthulhu. And when it says 9 disturbing tales, yeah, these scenarios are fucked up. Some of them, as I was reading through them, I'm just like, I'm not even fucking going there with my players. I wanted to use some of these in the Ripples of Carcosa games, but these are just too fucking messed up even for me. And those of you that know me, like, that's a big fucking ask. Some great scenarios, though, if your players are into that kind of horror. Okay, Minions, 15 brief encounters. When they say brief encounters, they actually mean it. These are like a page or 2 or 3 pages long. Not all of them have to do with the mythos. Some of them are red herrings that your players are going to think it's mythos related, and it's actually not. Again, this is a walk of shame purchase, but a really, really cool one to just throw in to put your characters, or put your players, I should say, kind of off the scent of what is going on. Oh, everything's fallen over. That's okay. Cold Harvest. This is basically Call of Cthulhu in Mother Russia. Not much else to say about it, actually. It's pretty cool. I have to admit, you get a lot of detailed information, some good maps. But, yeah, I just picked it up for the sake of picking it up because it's Call of Cthulhu, but not a lot to say about that one. All right, what else do we have? We have the Call of Cthulhu Keeper's Companion, Volume 1. This is just articles and essays on different aspects of the game, how to run different cults or different mythos tomes, things like that. That's all this is. This is just a helpful guide for the keeper to add more flavor to the game. A really good book, however. Okay, Dunwich. This is exactly what it is titled. This is about Dunwich from the Dunwich Horror. A lot of good information. As you can see, I have a sticky note stuck here, only because my players went to Dunwich in their game trying to find Professor Armitage. They got kind of caught up in the whole Dunwich Horror thing, which led to some really fantastic role-playing moments. But a really good source book on one of the major Lovecraftian towns in his work. Finally, we come to the last book that I have. I actually have more, but I just don't know where they are. Miskatonic University, the most famous university in Lovecraftian lore. Now, this has everything from different professors, different classes, map of the university, some scenarios, one of which my players got kind of involved in, which was a little bit of an offshoot of the Herbert West Reanimator story from Lovecraft himself. Really great book if you want your players to be those kind of people that that are in and around Arkham, which my players were for the longest period of time. They made friends at Miskatonic University. They had access to things. They befriended professors. They pulled the pants down on one professor. One of my players was dating the librarian from the Miskatonic University library. A really, really fantastic rule book for Call of Cthulhu if you are interested in setting your campaign in or around Miskatonic University. So that is, as it stands, everything that I could physically find. I've got other Call of Cthulhu books, but they're lost in the masses. Hope you enjoyed the video. As you can see, there is so much Call of Cthulhu stuff out there that you can still get. Well worth it if you want a fantastic horror-oriented role-playing game. My players, I hope, are having an absolute blast. I know I am running the games for them. I'm just going to put... let me see here. I'm just going to put this one up there so you have something to look at. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, hit the notification button so that when I make new videos, you are notified of them. Go and check out our Kickstarter. There are 8 days left. The link will be in the description below. But most importantly, please stay safe. Have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll see you in the next video.